All right, now let's do some fan questions.
No bad guy like Uncle. What's up, Chael? Chris here from South Florida. My question to you pertains, if you could pick 4 picks for your UFC Mount Rushmore, who would they be and why? It could be either your 4 greatest fighters of all time or 4 monumental people. Without them, we don't get the UFC that we have today. Thank you for taking the time to answer this question. And most of all, thank you for your sacrifice to entertain us.
Well, that's very sweet of you, and you are very welcome, my friend. But now the shoe's on the other foot. Now you're entertaining me, and you've entertained me with a question that I have been asked before, and I'll tell you, I struggle with it. I struggle with it because I like to use guys that represented an era. And we've had a few eras of the sport, and you're only giving me 4 spots. So not everybody could get on there, without question. And one of the only ones that I don't think that anybody would be able to argue or ever should argue, and that would be Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie started this. Royce Gracie opened everybody's eyes. Royce Gracie fought 4 men in one night. If you get up and you walk outside 4 times in one night, I don't care if you won those fights. If you get up and you leave the bar stool and you stumble outside with anybody 4 times in one night, it is Mr. Gracie for the rest of your life from me. I would argue strongly against Tito. I would argue against Tito because I despise Tito. But if somebody else were to make an argument that he did grab the company at a time it needed grabbed, grab a sport at the time it needed grabbed, do some heavy lifting, push himself, do the right interviews, bring in the right attention, that did add a momentum to a sport that needed momentum, you would be fair to do that. I would argue against it. I would invoke the doofus clause and say he can't be on there because he's a doofus. And then I would just hope that that vote rung out. I think that if you were going to go with that and still looking at that same era, there would be something that would need to be looked at for Chuck Liddell. I would personally put Randy Couture on there because what he did at the sport, the fact that he was able to extend his career to the age of 47 years old, the fact that he didn't even have his first foray in the sport until 34 years old, and by the way, captured championships at 2 different weight classes. I think there just has to be something there that's meaningful. And then likely you're going to get your 4th guy or gal, your 4th person for Mount Rushmore in about 10 years. Likely somebody that's there today, be it Amanda, be it what's going on with Adesanya. Could it possibly be a Conor McGregor or even Triple C? And you can all bend the knee. Look, there's something special that's going on in the sport right now. There has never been a better time to be a fight fan. And I think that the athletes and the talent and the skill that you have right now are at an all-time height. And I don't think they'll get the credit they deserve until, much like the Royce Gracies and the Chuck Liddell, until some time goes by. When some time elapses and people are able to look back, they're going to look back on right now as a very special era for MMA.
My name is Grant. I've heard a lot of people talk about the possibility of a matchup between Kamaru Usman and Khabib and how fascinating and fun of a fight that would be. But let me offer you this. How about a fight at 155 between Khabib and Colby Covington? Covington's called for this fight on Twitter. He's called Khabib a sheep fucker. For me, that would be even more fun than a fight between Khabib and Usman just because of the disrespect factor that Colby brings to it. I would just love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Well, I mean, check and mate, right? Yes. Colby will bring a furor to that fight, Colby versus Khabib, like nobody's ever seen. If Conor McGregor was able to get under his skin, and look, Conor went pretty damn far. And let's take the legality and the crimes committed out of it. Let's take that out. Let's just look at the comments. Conor posted pictures of Khabib's wife with captions of which I will not repeat that was so far over that Conor himself deleted them. I mean, you talk about where the line is and does a guy cross it or not, when Conor, who was the author of the statement, then went and put an eraser on it and deleted it, think we have a confession that things went a little bit too far. Colby will do the same thing, but he's not pushing the delete button. So yes, if you want to talk about somebody that could have some real fun and you just want to build a fight that we could all have some major anticipation for, oh, and by the way, have a terrific debate as you break down the X's and O's of who could enforce their conditioning and their grappling prowess on the other, yeah, I think you just found your man, Colby Covington.
Hey, Uncle Chael, just wondering, was there anyone during your fight career that you really wanted to fight and never got the chance to? And then also, is there anyone that you did fight that you just didn't want to fight? All right, thanks. Have a good one.
You know, anybody that I really wanted to fight, I always say Vitor Belfort when I get asked that question. But I don't even know if that's a truthful answer. Here's what happened to me. I was working at Fox. John Anik was at Fox one day. We were in what's called the avocado room. I guess it was called the avocado room because it was painted green. I'm colorblind. I haven't the foggiest idea. But we're in the avocado room, and John Anik says to me, Chael, you know, your career will never be complete until you fight Wanderlei Silva and Vitor Belfort. I never asked him why he said that. I never said what brought that comment on. How did you come to that conclusion? Oh, yeah, John, why is that? I never said anything. He just said it to me. I looked at him, I heard him say it, and then I accepted it. I accepted it as truth. I must fight Wanderlei Silva. I must fight Vitor Belfort, or my career will not be complete. I don't know why it had that effect on me, but it did. I fought Wanderlei. I never fought Vitor. My answer when I get asked that question, because of a comment John Anik made to me, is Vitor.
It's nice talking to you, Chael. Quick question. So obviously, since the early 2000s, we've seen a huge evolution in the sport of MMA. Have we seen similar evolutions in the sports that lead into MMA? Has the grappling world changed drastically? Have individual traditional martial arts changed drastically? Just curious what you've seen, what you heard about. Good talking to you, brother.
Yes. Yes, let me tell you why that's such an interesting question, the one that you just asked. For so long, MMA was the final product. So you would ask yourself as an athlete who wants to do it, or as a coach who's training somebody, or as a father whose child comes to you and says, I want to do MMA. Well, you want to treat this like a hot bath, and we want to dip one toe in at a time before we just give them a mouthpiece and throw them into a cage. So you start to ask, okay, well, what is the best preparation? And there's been many schools of thought on that. But I do think that the answer is becoming a little clear. Eddie Bravo, who hosts EBI Rules Grappling, EBI grappling events, is now doing combat jiu-jitsu. And all that is grappling with jiu-jitsu, with the use of all the techniques, including the knee bars and the heel hooks. But now you can do open palm strikes. So you're not going to hurt somebody too bad, at least in theory. You're not going to bust them into the ribs too bad. You're not going to shut their eyes and break their nose. But you've got a palm, an open palm, and you can begin to strike. And where I like that is now not an offensive skill that you're learning. But it does force you to learn defense. It does force you to keep your eyes open, to realize there's something coming. I can't just grab and lock onto an arm as I try to climb the guy's body and look for a submission. I got to be ready to let go of that arm, to block, to cover, to roll, to go into a submission. I think that is maybe the most hybrid form of training for MMA that isn't MMA.
Hey, Uncle Chael. My name's Cam, and I'm a big fan. I wanted to know what you think is the hardest form of combat for an average person to pick up with zero experience. Would it be kickboxing or jiu-jitsu, wrestling, or is it all subjective? Let me know your thoughts.
The hardest to learn, and you know what? I can personalize that answer for you, but a different athlete could have a completely different answer. Okay, you're going to have your sport. And as it pertains to MMA, you're going to either prefer the grappling side of it or you're going to prefer the striking side of it. And then it won't even be left quite at that. You will prefer the kickboxing aspect of it, or you will prefer just the Western boxing, meaning you're just using your hands. But you'll have elements. You'll have to learn them all. You'll have to adjust. You'll have to practice them all. but you're going to have ones that you prefer. When you get to practicing and coach yells out, all right, we're just boxing today. Whew, you might be one of those guys that goes, great, this is going to be a more fun day. Or you're going to go, man, just boxing, coach, can't we have a couple of other tools? So that's kind of independent. I will tell you from my own experience, if you want to learn to grapple, that seems to be something that you need to start as a child. It has seemed almost impossible to teach an adult to wrestle. But I have seen adults cross over and learn to strike in a very short period of time. Now, that's my own observation. I'm open to being wrong if you have some examples against that, but my guess to you, if you had to start one and start it very young, much like a foreign language, they say if you want your child to do a foreign language and have all of the accents down, you have to start them before 2 years old. I would offer to you that if you want them to learn how to wrestle, they've got to start that in their youth.
Chael, Peter from Macedonia here. John Jones, in 2 of his last 3 fights against Gustafsson and Smith, sold 700,000 and 650,000 pay-per-views. Israel Adesanya, in 2 of his last 3 fights, not including the Whittaker fight because I have no info, sold 175,000 pay-per-views against Silva and 100,000 pay-per-views against Gastelum. How the hell is he a bigger star than John Jones, let alone the face of the UFC?
Okay, so first off, I cannot back up any of those numbers that you just said. As a matter of fact, I've never heard those numbers till you just said them. Maybe you got a good source, but maybe you were on a junk website as well. One thing about the UFC is they do not reveal their pay-per-view numbers. So when you have some of these hack journalists that want to come out and be the insider with the insider info, they always have a seat at the table because there's nobody there to correct them. And I have use Dave Meltzer, by example, who has put out pay-per-view numbers from really the beginning of time. Dave is very, very far off and does not know what he's talking about, but I will share with you, when I look at what Dave says in comparison to what other people say, Dave is the closest. Even though he's upside down and really, I don't think, doing any more than just taking a guess and a gut feel of how a show did, Dave Meltzer is still the closest. The reason I say this for you is don't forget, the model has greatly changed. So whereas you're taking something that I've said that Israel Adesanya is the biggest star and you're trying to push back and go, no, it's John Jones. John Jones has been playing to half full buildings since he's returned, save the Gus fight, okay? That was a rematch. That was supply and demand. That had media behind it. They changed. I mean, there's all sorts of things that happened. There was a reduction in ticket price. A million different things happened, and he did sell out. He hasn't sold out since. He also does not have an opponent right now. And the reason he doesn't have an opponent is because there are people that want to fight him. It's because there isn't a fight that people want to see. Am I coming to you as a guy who's trying to put John Jones down a little bit? Yeah, sure. I will admit to that. But you can't deny to me that he hasn't sold out in a meaningful period of time and does not have an opponent right now in existence that is guaranteed to sell out next time. Israel Adesanya just did 57,000 people. And when you're talking about the pay-per-view numbers that you're offering, the model changed on January 18th of this year. It changed from sitting down at your TV and pushing a button to the steps and the education process that the ESPN platform brought to it. So numbers do look very different than they used to. And the same is true with boxing and other models that were with pay-per-view and are more subscriber-based. So I don't know that those numbers are quite as genuine as if we put a period of time and come back and look at it again.
Jill, my question to you is, who should Ben Askren fight now that he's lost twice? People who say he should retire is stupid. But who should he fight now? Who should be his next fight? Thank you.
I'm as open to suggestions on that as you are. There is a lot of special and meaningful fights for Ben Askren. There is also fights that are going to have to take place between guys ranked number 5 through 12 as opposed to 1 through 5. He was put in a position to fast-track himself to a title shot, to derail other guys from their dream of getting a title shot, and now he'll be put in a little bit different position. That's the ebb and flow of the sport. But I think there's a number of good opponents, and it's also not something that I think we have to figure out today. We've got some other welterweight fights coming up. Crazier things have happened than Ben leaving 170 and moving to 185. You may be in support of that and go, oh, no, I don't like that. But when he was in one championship, he was the middleweight champion. So many people either didn't know that or have forgotten that. He has fought successfully without defeat at 185. I do not hypothesize for you that I think that that's the best move. I'm just suggesting for you that there is some moving parts. There is a lot of things that can happen right now. And this is not a decision that needs to be made today.
Uncle Chael, Uncle Chael, there's no bad guy like Uncle Chael. Never lost, not even a round. Undefeated, undisputed. Oh yeah, here comes the bad guy. Uncle Chael, Uncle Chael. There's no bad guy like Uncle Chael. Never lost, not even a round. Undefeated, undisputed. Oh yeah, here comes the bad guy. Uncle Chael, Uncle Chael.